Well, the most immediate would come to mind is, as Mr. Sherman points out, we've had this dialogue for many years now. And when do you intend to submit legislative details of the proposal in terms of that new single licensing agency?
When we first have briefed this and in the task force report, we set up a three-phase plan to do fundamental export control reform. We are into phase 2 and working through that with the revised lists that we have published for public comment and will submit for congressional consideration through the 38F process. We believe we need to get further down the road with that before we submit legislation to enable that, and we will work closely with you when that time comes.
Well, the Export Administration Act is expired. So what you're using now for a number of years now is emergency authority to carry out the Commerce Department's basic licensing and enforcement activities. And hence the desire on our part either to work together with you in terms of updating and reauthorizing or replacing that expired act. One of the things I was going to ask you is the impact that the expiration may have had on enforcement efforts to combat illegal technology transfer. With you operating under emergency powers now and without us moving forward to actually reauthorize this act or replace it, or not having received the submission of your details for your proposal, has it had an impact on that?
With respect to the enforcement of the existing regulations, it's had no impact. There's a significant number of, over the years, civil and criminal actions that have been taken and maintained to the end under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. As I described in my testimony in a little bit more detail in my prepared remarks, there's a little bit more that can be done, but with respect to the ability to bring and maintain criminal and civil enforcement actions, it hasn't had an impact.
Let me ask you just for a minute, should we be able to get this proposal out there and get this done, what would it mean for U.S. exporters as a consequence? What's the payoff, if you could?
Are you referring to the single enforcement agency?
You know, to get the single enforcement agency through to the finish line. What then would that?
The payoff for national security, we've just described very well on the panel, but with respect to exporters, the goal is a more efficient, more organized, more transparent system than what we have now.
Maybe in dollar terms, if you could quantify that for exporters.
Well, we don't have a dollar estimate with respect to the particular economic benefit, but in the end, it will result in a dramatically more efficient system.
That's our hope, and I think that's why we need to see the details of the proposal. I think there's one item that I've long been concerned about, and I guess I'll bring it up here, and that was Victor Boot's ability, frankly, his machinations around the globe to get his hands on the transfer of military equipment, and a lot went into bringing him to the bar of justice. You know, not only his capture, but getting him extradited here was something we were very involved in. So we've got a situation where motivated by profit, and we have a situation where arms brokers search for ways to funnel arms to terrorist groups and to rebel groups. And many of the items being proposed to move from the munitions list to the commerce list have clear military value. To a guy like Boot, he'd be very focused on that. Presently, pre-export checks allow the government to identify risks of diversion or other illicit activities. With intelligence information gleaned from those checks, the U.S. government then stops U.S. companies from working with these shady brokers. That's been our experience. If you could explain the types of pre-export checks that military items move to the commerce list will receive for companies seeking to export to the 36 destinations judged to be of low risk. I think once these goods get to Europe, that's going to be the test of your implementation of your enforcement. I just wanted to get some feedback on that, Mr. Wolf.
Sure. With respect to the use of the license exception, strategic trade authorization, a condition is that all of the foreign parties have gone through the U.S. government licensing system before, so that they've been vetted effectively the same way that they would be vetted now. In addition, there is a limited number, a listed group of items, not all items, that would warrant it, and it's only for ultimate end use by the governments of those 36. To the extent those and a series of other notification and certification obligations can't be satisfied, then a license would be required even from the Commerce Department, even to that group of 36.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Mr. Sherman.